Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
When you fade into a melody, your mind is lost in reverie. You can feel the earth and touch the sky. Don't mind the shade when there's inner light. What you do is who you are. Don't stop dreaming on the distant star. The fortune wheel will roll your way. Where you stand is where you have your say. Raise the bar a little higher. See the shadow flames from the fire.
2020 should have been big for Jay Farrar. The year marked the 25th anniversary of the debut album from his band Sunvolt. The Belleville native started that band, of course, just after leaving Uncle Tupelo, the band that some critics credit with inventing alt-country. But 2020 had a way of upending even the most exciting plans. And so instead of celebrating, Jay Farrar found himself in a contemplative state of mind. His feelings about life and America infuse his new album, Electric Melodier, like this track, Reverie.
No moment now, however small. The whirl of time teaches all. Notes on high above the low. Words and plans forward racing on. Where the wind pumps the water to the gardens of the mind. Teach the young as keepers of the faith to love the smell of the
That is Reverie from the new album by Sunvolt. The album is called Electric Melodier, and it comes out tomorrow. And joining us today is the band's St. Louis-based frontman and founder, Jay Farrar.
Hello.
Jay, welcome.
Hello, hello.
So I love the word reverie. The literal meaning is, quote, a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts, a daydream. Did 2020 send you into a literal reverie?
It did indeed. As we all know, the pandemic was the backdrop, and I started writing these songs right as the pandemic struck. So it was kind of an existential concern, really. It's like a musician that can't play music anymore, can't play live music. So I sort of just tried to make the best of it, and dove into the writing of these songs, and really just had a singular focus. I think that oftentimes we didn't have as a band because we always had another gig on the horizon that we had to kind of pay attention to. But this time we were all able to really drill down and focus on this recording.
Is that where the pleasant part of the reverie comes in? You're lost in daydreams. So many people were having just terrifying dreams during this pandemic.
Well, I probably had those too, but music is one of those places you go to feel better, actually. So
in this song, there's the lyric, we won't know where we stand till December. What's that referring to?
Just trying not to be overt. I tried to pivot away from the previous Sunvolt recording union, so some of the topical stuff that I was putting into song, I tried to be a little less overt about, but the election.
I had to wonder if that was about the election. Like, we're not going to get all these ballots counted till December. Was that your fear?
Yeah.
So we got the ballots counted, and then we had some people that didn't accept the results of those ballots. Was that something in your reverie that you'd contemplated?
I had not. I was aware that there could be problems, but it got messy for sure. But music was my way of escaping all that.
And so you said you were kind of hoping not to be overt. You didn't want this to be a political album?
I mean, that's right. I think, the title, which we can talk about that a little bit, Electro Melodier, is, essentially two words taken from old amplifiers. I have an interest in old amplification, and a lot of the words they were using for amps and guitars back then kind of dealt with space exploration and all the possibilities, like, whether it's rocket or electro. And this song, Melodier, this word Melodier jumped out at me as something. It's actually not a word. It's not in the dictionary, but I feel like it should. It's sort of someone or something that emotes a melody. So Melodier. So anyway, I'm sorry, what was your original question?
So I guess you were hoping this wouldn't be a political album.
Yeah.
You wanted to lean into the melody,
Right.
maybe.
So yeah, there's always been that duality with Sunvolt between the acoustic and the electric, and I wanted, this title, Electro Melodier, to be emblematic of, a return to more melodic, uptempo, upbeat type songs. But again, I read the news too much, so with the pandemic as the backdrop and with a lot of political turmoil as the backdrop, some of that found its way into the writing.
The politics crept in.
Yes.
So we've got an example of that, at least the way I'm listening to this song. It feels like an example of this. This song is called Livin' in the USA. Let's listen to that.
They say freedom is a natural thing. From cradle to grave, show the world what's at stake. A higher purpose walks these streets all around. In a sea of noise, it's still there but tuned out. Living in the USA. Share a little truth with your neighbor down the block. We've all got fossil fuel lungs while we run out the clock. Living in the USA. Living in the USA. And where's the heart from days of old? Where's the empathy? Where's the soul? Living in the USA, living in the USA.
And that is Livin' in the USA. It's from the new album by Sunvolt, which comes out tomorrow. The album is Electric Melodier, a word that maybe isn't a word but should be a word. It's according to Jay Farrar, the band's frontman, who's here with us today. So, Jay, Livin' in the USA, of course, you can't help but immediately think of Born in the USA. Was that intentional?
It didn't start out to be intentional, but I think as I was writing the song, I was thinking that there are a lot of songs that I always use as touchstones that sort of established a thematic tradition, and Born in the USA is one of those, and another one is Rockin' in the Free World by Neil Young. So, when it comes to social commentary, those are kind of touchstones for me, those two songs, and this was just my attempt to put my own thoughts to words and music.
So the song compares America today unfavorably to where it used to be, the heart from days of old. Do you feel like this is a nation in decline?
That is a definite possibility, yeah. I mean, just the polarization is incredible, which, I hope we find a way back.
And yet it feels like there's a lot of progressives and a lot of people who maybe share your thoughts on Donald Trump who have come to the conclusion that America was never good, that it was built on like this rotten foundation. I'm not hearing that in this song.
Yeah, I don't know if the whole foundation was rotten. I think there's just always been some cracks in it. So
do you
we
feel
have to fix the cracks.
You feel like if we fix the cracks, I mean, is there hope? The song also feels kind of hopeful to me.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think the pandemic in general, and coming out of a period of political turmoil, I approach the writing of these songs with hope as a central focus, for sure.
And now, I mean, we thought we were going to be out of the pandemic. We may not be out of the pandemic.
It's not past tense. No.
It definitely doesn't feel past tense this week. I don't know. I mean, does that take you back to then just that feeling of 2020 where it's just hard to feel hopeful all over again?
I think we just all have to get used to the idea. It's just the new normal, and we'll all just adjust a bit and plow ahead.
So we've been talking a bit about the politics that crept into this album, despite what you had in mind for it, maybe. You also write about the personal. There's a song on here about your wife. I want to play this. This is called Diamonds and Cigarettes.
We stood at the gate, time and time again, tempting fate. We've been through the powerful flows, pulled together how many times, God only knows. All the hard lessons with no regrets, we're still diamonds and cigarettes. Thought the same thoughts of the soul, books and songs, we've lived the open road. Second-hand cars, making the rent, in the unjust world that never seems to make sense. All the hard lessons with no regrets, we're still diamonds and cigarettes. For all the dreams we've lost and left, we're still diamonds and cigarettes.
And that track is Diamonds and Cigarettes from the new album by Sunvolt. We're here with Jay Farrar, the band's frontman. Diamonds and Cigarettes. Tell us the origin of that image.
Diamonds, I guess, would relate to, there's a wealth in our bond, I guess, and the cigarettes is that there's it still, still feels lively. So, that's one unintended consequence, I think, of the pandemic is just that bonds were strengthened, both in terms of spending time with my wife and my family, my kids. I mean, we all spent a lot of time together. So.
Yeah. And you and your wife, I understand you were high school sweethearts. Is that right?
We've known each other a long time. That's correct. And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for her. Sunvolt wouldn't be here because she had a job when we recorded our first recording, and I didn't. I didn't have a credit card and didn't have a record company at that time. So the very first Sunvolt record, Trace, was financed by her credit card. So
wow. So this one that now is in its 26th anniversary, this would
Right.
not be here if not for your wife.
Yeah.
I understand that the timeline of your relationship is not far off from the timeline of Sunvolt.
Yeah, we were married about a year after the first Sunvolt record.
So is this your 25th anniversary is this year?
That's correct.
So you kind of missed the 125th anniversary.
Yeah.
You're getting to celebrate this one,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
is the shutdown going to
Well,
affect that too?
We actually haven't celebrated the second one yet either. So
Did you miss the date, or is the date still coming?
no, just the travel didn't. We did have some plans, and pandemic kind of shut down travel for a while. So.
Yeah.
To be determined, to be delayed.
Well, so 25 years. I mean, that's a huge milestone. I have to think about 25 years for Sunvolt the band, 25 years for the marriage. What's harder, making a band work for that long or making a marriage work for that long?
They're about equal, I would say. But yeah, they're both still here.
Do the skills that you learn in working through problems with one, do they also apply to the other?
They do, yeah, I think so. And I've tried to incorporate what I learned from one and apply it to the other. So maybe that's why they're both still going.
Yeah, it is interesting that it feels like this year, is it 1994, 1995? Like you must have been making some great choices right about then, that here you are now looking back on that.
It's been a good ride, I just feel lucky to still be doing it.
Now, you mentioned your kids. I feel like so many of us during the pandemic had trouble getting anything done because our kids were just in the house, underfoot all the time. Was that an issue for you as you're going into your reveries that there's a kid in the background who has needs?
We all had to kind of find our own space, but my kids are a bit older, college, and my son just graduated from college, so they were in and out. But again, I felt like it was really, I sort of treasured those extra moments that we got together.
I feel like with a college-age kid, you're like, oh, you're now forced to hang out with me.
Right.
So how do they feel? Are they like, yeah, Dad has this amazing band? Are they excited about this new album, this milestone you're at?
They are, in their own way. They've always been very supportive, and I've actually been working with my daughter some. She's been shooting some video because she's studying film in college. So,
And will that video be a part of this new album?
it will be. It's probably within about a week or so. It'll probably be released. Yeah, a Reverie video.
Oh, okay. So the video for Reverie, your daughter shot.
Well, there's one that's been out already. That's been an early version, and there'll be another. Yeah.
So what was it like working with your daughter on something like that?
It was pretty cool, I mean, just seeing her work, and I'm sure, she was probably a little bit curious about watching me work at the same time. So there was, just a symbiotic situation, I guess.
So we got a question on Twitter. This comes from Vega, who asked, could you ask Jay if a tour is planned? And if so, when would Sunvolt be in the Northeast, which is also the safest and most vaxxed area of the U.S., by the way, says Vega. I looked at your tour schedule. I didn't see dates in the Northeast at this point.
Yeah, maybe they're just not up yet, but there definitely are some. I know we're going up to Boston and Woodstock area. We have a couple dates up there. So.
Okay, so you will be going to the Northeast. Any sense of when that's going to happen?
It's January and February.
Okay, so good news for Vega. At the same time, it feels like it's very hard to make plans right now. Everything is in flux. Are you worried that the timing of this, while it was great to get to write all of this during the pandemic, that things could get shut down again, all over again?
Right. They might, for sure. I feel like Sunvolt was fortunate in a lot of ways in that we had gotten our previous record out, Union, and had a chance to tour behind it, So I empathize with other bands that kind of got caught up in the pandemic. I can relate, as one of my solo records got released the same week as 9/11, 2001, so I know how that goes. But yeah, again, just looking forward to getting back out there and playing these songs, and hopefully everything keeps progressing in the right direction.
So we want to mention that this tour kicks off right here in the St. Louis area at the Open Highway Music Festival in Chesterfield. That's going to be next weekend. You'll be playing on Saturday, August 7th. And this is a new band lineup. Tell us about these changes.
John Horton joined us on guitar, and he'll be playing some baritone guitar. Chris Frame, who recorded on Electro, Melodier, and previous record, he wanted to spend more time with his family. But I've known the new guy, John Horton, he's actually an old guy in my. I don't mean that as an
I
old.
hope he's listening to
I
this.
mean that as an old friend, So.
An old friend. So he's a part of this. But, he's with the Bottle Rockets.
Right.
They're a big band. Sunvolt's a big band.
Sure.
Has it been challenging to bring together what I'm sure are different styles or different ways of being used to doing things?
Maybe different ways, but, we have a solid background in that we actually were John Horton and I were actually in a band together with my brother and Gary Hunt called, oh my gosh, it's Honky Tonk Band.
And was this all the way back before Uncle
Yeah,
Tupelo?
and also John Horton played on he played on a solo record of mine, Terroir Blues, and he also played on one solo record, played on a song.
So this is not by any means a brand new player into the
Right.
mix here. This is someone you know how to play with.
Exactly. Yeah, we're old friends.
And so you're going to be doing this. This happens in Chesterfield. What's running through your head as you get ready for? It's been a while since you've been able to have a live performance.
That's right. I think it'll be like getting back on a bicycle. But one thing that's going through my head is the fact that it'll be August in St. Louis outdoors. So that'll be fun. Yeah.
That'll be fun. That's a good way to say it. Are you already planning? Like, what is your cooling strategy?
Exactly. Yeah. We're going to bring that up at the next team meeting. What's it going to be, like ice covered towels or what? So
Yeah,
we'll
you
have to
better
come
hope
up with
the heat breaks before we get to the following weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Open Highway Music Festival in Chesterfield. I believe tickets for that are still available if people want to join
think
you
so,
for
yeah.
that. And I got to ask, I'm told that right before everything shut down, so this may have been your last performance before this one. This was on the Outlaw Country Cruise.
Yeah, that we did do that. That was actually Sunvolt's last show. So, and that was happening right about the time the Super Bowl was happening down there. And I remember there was talk about, this virus, but it hadn't really taken hold yet.
Wow, so that was your last show until the one that you're going to be playing in Chesterfield.
Right.
You feel ready to go?
So our last show was on water. So we're looking forward to getting back on land.
And Chesterfield can provide that, boy.
Yes.
Well, Jay Farrar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And that new album is called Melodier. That comes out tomorrow. And the Open Highway Music Festival, you can catch Sunvolt there. That's at the Chesterfield Amphitheater. They're going to be performing on Saturday, August 7th. And I want to go out of the show with one more track from Melodier. This is Arky Blue.
It's alright. The worst will soon be over. Let the rhythm rise like a banner with more sorrow than anger.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
With more sorrow than anger. With more sorrow than anger.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.